All right, I'm going live. Good morning. My name is Annie, and just want to say a quick hello to everyone who's at home today, couldn't make it in. We love you and are glad that you're here too. So today we're doing something a little different, as you can see. I'm talking about my trip that I went on this summer. Some people asked me if I would do a presentation on what that was about, and so here I am. So yeah. So the missionaries that we predominantly worked with are Mark and Lori Connell. This is them. They're in their 60s. They've been in Honduras for 26 years. If you are interested in their work, their Facebook page is called the Honduras Project. And if you scroll up enough to June, you can actually see posts that Lori was making, and then our Lori that was kind of in charge of our trip were making while we were there in the trip. And she posts like pictures and stuff too. So that's kind of neat to look at. I actually got some of my pictures from their Facebook page as well. So they both have they both started two different ministries, but of course they're a married couple and they work together with all of that. His ministry is he hosts groups that come up and they build houses. They do outreach and stuff through giving away food. It's a lot of humanitarian aid. So food giveaways, clothing giveaway, helping local churches, building houses for people, stuff like that. And then her ministry is called Mi Esperanza, that she started in 2002, and that one is about it's for empowering women, teaching women life skills. So they have like a school there that they teach several different life skills to help raise women out of poverty and change their generational what would you call it? Change their family and cycle of poverty. That's what I was looking for, the word I was looking for. They also work with other missionaries there, which I thought was really neat. It's kind of like a missionary family in a way because they help each other. So another lady I'll be talking about was Amber. She has a ministry called Breaking Chains, and then a guy named David. And interestingly enough, when I was talking to them, all the other mission trips, this one was different for me. I've been on a lot of mission trips. And then when I was in AIM, we hosted a lot of mission trips there. And usually it was like to go and work with a missionary that had like planted a church or went and was working with a church, and we were helping them specifically. This one was different, as we were going there, and the missionary, while he is a part of a church, he didn't like plant that church, and he's not like in charge of the church. He's mainly there doing humanitarian stuff to show Jesus, and while I'm sure he does talk to people about God, it was a little different in that way. So I found that interesting. Also, interestingly enough, them as well as Amber and David were inspired to be missionaries there because they went on a short-term mission trip themselves first. So they all went on trips to Honduras like 20, 30 years ago, and then they got inspired and figured, I can do something, I can help. I'm gonna go there and start my own ministry. And then to see them like working together was really neat. Even though they have their own individual ministries, they'll come alongside and help with that. So that was neat to see that. So we left on June 10th. We did a red-eye flight and got there. We flew to Houston, and then from Houston, it's only a 2-hour hop over to Honduras, which is in Central America. And so we got there, I want to say around noon. We ate at the airport, ate lunch, and then went on our way. The airport is newer. It's like, I want to say it's like 2 hours from Tegucigalpa, which is the capital. And so we had quite a long bus ride to go. And I was not expecting so many mountains everywhere. It was very beautiful. And it was strange to see pine trees up in these mountains and then juxtaposed with getting down more in the city and seeing palm trees. That was very strange. There were lots of fruit trees there. The mangoes were in season, papayas were in season. I even saw a cashew nut tree. I saw a couple eucalyptus trees. I've never seen that before. It was just very beautiful. So this is where we stayed. It's called Via Gracia. It's a retreat center. It was started by another church a long time ago, but they predominantly host mission groups, as well as it's an event venue. And so while we were there being hosted there, they also had 2 weddings and a graduation party. So we had events we worked around there. This is like the dining area where we would eat all. That's another big thing they provide, not only housing and a place for us to like store and put all our supplies together for whatever that day's tasks are gonna entail, but also they fed us breakfast and dinner, which made the trip so much easier. And that was nice to, I mean, it's fun to go out and have meals in the city too, but it was nice to have it like provided so that we didn't have to waste time like traveling to get food or figuring out what we were gonna eat for such a large group. We had 27 people representing at least 6 churches in Alaska, which was really neat to see that. Of course, the people that organized the trip and helped plan the trip are Scott and Lori Geyer from the Anchorage Church. So most of the people on the trip were from the Anchorage Church or connected to them. And then there was like 2 or 3 people that live in the lower 48, but either have lived in Alaska, like I already knew 2 of them, or they were related to someone in Alaska that joined us in Houston. So anyway, Via Gracia. So this was the dining hall, and then every morning and every evening we had a Devo. So you see Quinn is his name. He's giving us our Devo on one of the days. And then this is Mark right here. This is Lori right here. And yeah, so it was a very nice place. It made us feel very safe. It was up high in the mountains, so it was a little cooler. But I mean, just being there in general, it was hot, and very, very humid. But it was nice to go up in the mountains, be a little cooler. But most of our work was actually like an hour or over that away. So they have a bus driver that would pick us up as well, and he would spend like all day with us pretty much. He would just take us where we needed to go, park the bus, and stay with us wherever we were. And so that was nice. And then take us back there at night. It had a gate and with a guard, so it made you feel very safe. This is just some more pictures of, and then the demographics of our group were from age 11 all the way up to the oldest, Grandpa Bill, was like in his 80s, I think. And so all the teens and young adults were playing some cards one night late after we got back. So our first day, we'll get into that. We're gonna start with, first day we arrived, had our orientation after we got to the house from Mark. So this would be starting on our second day, actually, technically third day, if you count, we left the night of the 10th. But anyway, our second day in Honduras, we went to this village called Molaloa. It was like over an hour away. And this is Iglesia de Cristo, Church of Christ. So this was their small church building. And we worked with a couple, the preacher and his wife there, Noel and Johanna. And they're actually from Nicaragua originally, but they're the ministers there. And then they also had a younger couple that were also ministering with them there. So this is the main building. We spent a lot of time here. We came and worked at this location for 3 different days. And so our group in the morning, we would split up into 2 groups. One group would build a house. So there was a house built every single day except for Sunday. So our group would split up and, they would give you the choice of what you wanted to do, and they would tell you what the other work that was going to happen, that was going to go on. So you could make a choice, but most people picked and stayed with one thing. There was a core group for each thing, and then some people would switch back and forth of what they wanted to do. I felt called to stay with the other group so I could help more with my Spanish speaking skills was nice to have because there was really only 2 Spanish speakers in our entire group. So if Mark and Lori were with the other group, or he would usually go back and forth checking on us all day, then I could at least be there, or somebody else could help. There was something else I was going to add to that, and then I forgot. Okay, this is right next door. This is an important little building. This is the kitchen. And there's a ministry there that is really special. Been going on for 20 years, where a lady named Evelyn, she and her group, her team, I guess, they make meals for the children in the community 5 days a week for lunch. So the kids would come every day of the week. And so that's kind of how we got the word out for, so my group is obviously here at the church. The other group is on a hillside building a house. And we got the word out for the VBS we were going to do that day, because the kids would come to lunch. They would print off flyers for the kids to hand out. So we would hand those out at lunch and be like, come back at 1 o'clock or whatever for the VBS. And so they would go home, tell their friends, family, whoever, we're like, tell everybody, and then they would come for the VBS that day. So here's us sitting there. I think, is Evelyn right there? No, I don't see her. This is Lori, one of the ladies that organized our trip, and then Bonnie, another lady from Anchorage from our trip. And then this girl, Ann Lauren, she hopped in with our trip. She had stayed longer. Her group had been there right before us, and she stayed to help us. She also spoke some Spanish too, and that was nice. So you take a walk down to this building, and this is the kids' classes. And this community, I'll go back. This is kind of like the main road of the community. It goes like through here. So you can see the soccer field is right here, which is a big deal in those communities. And then right down here is like a little store that everyone goes to. And they would sell these, they call them choco bananas, frozen bananas dipped in chocolate, and we would go down and get a snack or an ice cream or something. And so that's kind of like the hub of the community. So the church was in a great place, kind of up high, overlooking the main road people are going through. And that was nice. So let me see here. Yeah, so this is us doing the puppet show. A lot of kids came later that day, and then we had our setup there. So I'm getting everyone together and kind of starting things and singing songs at first before we do the puppet show. And so that was really good. And then we had some people would do the puppets, and then me and another person would do the puppet script. And there was usually like 3 or 4 parts, so I couldn't do all the parts myself because I like to do like different voices, you know. And so it's hard to do like 4 different voices by yourself and like keep it all together. But so I usually recruited some people. If the main other Spanish speaker wasn't there with me, that girl Ann Lauren helped me with this time, I think. But we did probably 4 or 5 puppet shows. And so I always had to recruit, shoulder tap. I think one of the times I shoulder tapped one of the young couple that are ministers there as well. I asked if they would help me, and they did. And they helped get a microphone set up and everything. But this day went really well. There was tons of kids that came, and then afterward we did a craft and a snack, and that got kind of messy. All the kids, we cut up watermelon. We had the kitchen ladies help cut up watermelon slices and hand them out, but all the kids spit the watermelon seeds on the floor of the church, and there was like watermelon juice everywhere. But anyway, that was another thing, was trash was really different there. It was very dirty. There was trash everywhere. I mean, people in their personal homes, some of them like respected that, and they would clean up their space. But just trash in general, it's just a different mentality because of the lack of infrastructure there. There's not even a good mailing system there to send people stuff or anything. It's just the infrastructure is not very good. So there is some sort of trash system in the city, but their just mentality on trash, like you give a kid a piece of candy and they'll eat it and then they just throw the wrapper down the floor, which I mean maybe a lot of our kids might do that too, I don't know, but like it was just everywhere. And so that to them was like no big deal, but that just made you think like, wow, this is a different place for sure. And then getting into the profound like poverty in Honduras, it was, yeah, there was definitely a lot of poverty. This neighborhood in particular was not the poorest one we went to, but I would say the next to the poorest one we went to probably. And we were talking with the missionaries about like why Honduras has so much poverty, and he was saying that a lot of the government officials and stuff are corrupt. And I don't know if you guys remember several years back when Honduras had a huge flood, because this is actually their rainy season. And so if they get like a monsoon or a big amount of rain, it can really flood in. Like we were, Villa Grasa, where we're staying, is kind of in the mountains, and then Tegucigalpa itself is down in this like valley, so the main city itself. And then there's all these poor villages on the outside. But there was a huge flood a while back, and thousands of people died because some of the neighborhoods were like below the flood line. I mean, this was an astronomical amount of rain. That's not usual, but they always get a lot of rain every year anyway. So anyway, going back to the poverty and how that relates to what I'm talking about, a lot of people around the world donated to Honduras as a country because of all the people that died, that lost their homes and all that. But he said that the people in the country hardly saw any of that money because the government was corrupt. He said they used it to build some buildings to sell them, to like make money, and just for themselves. And they're really disappointed in their president right now. It's a lady. They said like she doesn't do anything for us. Like I think the elections were coming up soon when we were there or something, and they were gonna try and elect her out. But that was really interesting. And you know, when the people higher up are hoarding the resources and not trying to rebuild their country and put more into it, it's a hard cycle to get out of. You kind of feel stuck in. So this was the next day. We gathered up all these school supplies. So one thing that Mark does every year, because the government actually doesn't support schools that much either, which is sad, is he also delivers school supplies to a lot of the schools in the area twice a year. So their school calendar is different than ours. It's like it starts January, February, and goes through November actually. And so we were delivering like the second wave of school supplies. So we went to the school, and in this picture, we're handing them out kind of like in a line, which that was the only time we did that. After that, we put all the supplies ourselves into bags and handed them out for the kids. But this one, we just gave the kids a bag because we didn't have time that morning, and they all came by and got different supplies. And then afterward, the kids are like, oh, are you guys gonna stay? Are y'all gonna play games with us? So we're like, oh, I guess we should play games. So I was like one of the only Spanish speakers there, so I was like, okay, think on my feet here. So we're playing like Simon Says, Duck Duck Goose, like all the games I could think of and like try and remember the words for. But they had a lot of fun, and it was really good. So later that day, I guess one of the groups before us had already put together these bags of food. And so after that, we had already loaded up the food bags into the bus and into Mark's truck that he had. And so we went and handed those bags out in the community. And it's a lot of hiking because it's just up and down these random trails. It's not like everyone's house is on a road. You might get to a neighbor's house down this little, or up this little steep trail or whatever, and then they're like oh, don't forget about my 2 neighbors this way. You have to like go through their trail to get to the other neighbors' trails. So you take a group of a couple people with bags with you, and then like try and make sure you hit as many houses as you can. And it was really sweet though to see them looking out for their neighbors and not just trying to get things for themselves. They were worried about their neighbors. They wanted to make sure their neighbors got what they got. And I loved that. So this is like a road we're on near the school, and the group that was building the house was like way up here. I can't remember if they were here or here. One of these two was them. And they had to every day carry their supplies up wherever they were going. So they used to have to also carry the lumber. The houses they were building are 16 by 16 wooden houses with metal tin roofs. And we even flew some of our tools down for part of it too. So the family was responsible for, they had to be owners of the land, be able to prove that. And then they were responsible for getting all the supplies. Mark would order the supplies, and they were responsible for getting them to the site. And each house, I think, cost about $2,500 to build. And sometimes they had to tear down the existing house first, or this is just, you can see what they were living in before. So this is what they're living in before. This is a new house here. Here's what they're living in before. Now this isn't everybody, but this is like the poorest of the poor. So it's considered fancy there if you have a brick or concrete house. But other people who have to scrounge, that's kind of what they get. So this is just several pictures of people helping build the houses. Sorry, some of them are blurry. But you can see just the mountainous region we're in. Some of the houses, you know, they're building them on literally the side of a hill or a mountain. They're lucky if they get like a flatter site like this one. So you can see they made them look nice. This one has trim, which is really nice. They usually had like a couple windows and a door. And here's one of the families that got one of the houses. And Mark just gets requests for houses all the time. He has them all stuffed in his little glove box in his car, and he has to somehow decide who's gonna get a house. And this, they made a sign that says "Welcome Home" for that family that day. This is just funny. This is like little taxis that they would ride around. These are like little, and I just thought that was cute. But, one thing that was really interesting there that I did not experience in Mexico was there was Christianity everywhere. We saw billboards all the time with like Christian messages on it versus things to make you think. Like this one says, "The most marvelous news, Christ is coming soon. How is your relationship with him?" And that just really hit me because when I was in Mexico, I was more in, have you ever heard of the Bible Belt? You know, in the South and stuff like that. Well, I was in like the Catholic belt of Mexico, very strong Catholicism. And so, like there is Catholicism there too, but I just saw so much Christianity there, so many different Christian churches. I saw like Assembly of God, several Baptist ones, Methodist ones, Four Corners, which I'd never even heard of that one, Churches of Christ, of course, and just several denominations. And Honduras is a really big spot for mission trip groups. We saw so many groups. We were flying with at least one other group on our plane, big group, and we ran into throughout our trip a few groups too. So they get groups just going, helping, which is great. And it was interesting because the missionaries would see each other at the airport. They'd be there at the same time to pick up their different groups. And
is Natalie in here?
No.
We found her Bible at church. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's been here for like 3 years.
Natalie's getting her Bible back today.
Sorry for the interruption.
I forgot where I was at. Forgot what I was talking about.
Seeing other missionary groups.
Thank you. So yeah, that really shocked me, but I think it was great that so many are there. People are there helping just because of the vast poverty that I saw. So let's see. This was the day that we went to, day 4, we went to an orphanage called Didasco. This was started by another church in the States called a Four Corners something. I'd never heard of that denomination, but anyway, we went and helped with this. It was a huge property out in the countryside near this village. It was really pretty. But there was only 13 kids there, which was kind of nice because our group got to really like focus. If there had been like a huge group like there was at the VBS, you can't really like focus on individual kids. But this was nice. And then we also personally brought with us like bubbles. The kids love those like temporary tattoos, little toys to give away, little Play-Doh. Just they suggested just bring a lot of that candy. You can just like to give away stuff. So you have to be wise about it. When is a good time to give away? Make sure there's enough for everyone in this group. If I bring it out, make sure I'm not in a spot where I'm about to get mobbed by too many people, so we have to be wise with it. But so they're making little crafts and stuff. We're playing with the kids. We brought like nail polish, so we were painting each other's nails. I connected with these 2 teen girls, and I'm like offering to paint their nails, and they're like, no, but we want to paint your nails. So they like sat me down and painted my nails. And we had a lot of fun connecting with them. I think the year before they either helped, I can't remember if they helped build the playground or helped paint the playground, something like that. But it was really neat. I connected with the lady kind of in charge that her parents run it, and then she helps run it part of the time too. Her name's Michelle. And she kind of gave me a tour of the whole facility, and that was nice. Here's kind of the gazebo, the area we mostly hung out with that whole time. Here's the kitchen where they eat their meals, and then some of the dormitories down here. This is the girls' house right here. Here's the 2 girls I connected with, Norma and then Annie. There was another Annie there. What are the odds of that? So that was really neat. I really loved spending time with them, and it was so hard to leave that day because they were like, when are you guys coming back? Are we going to see you again? And that just broke my heart. I really wanted to go back there, but we didn't end up making it back to that one. So it was in the area of Tamara. So the next day was Sunday, and we went to church again in Molaloa, that church building I showed you guys before. This is the auditorium that we used for the puppet show was up there and all that. So Noel and Johanna are there. So it was really neat. Like the church picked out 5 or 6 songs to sing to us, and then we picked out like 5 or 6 songs to sing to them in English. And so that was really neat to do that and be encouraged by that. And then Noel would preach his sermon, and then Alex, the other Spanish speaker in our group, would translate, and he did a really great job. And it was very encouraging. This is Johanna. She was amazing. Her and her husband would also go out with us to some of the smaller communities and help us like hand out food. Noel would bring his truck, and we'd put food in his truck and Mark's truck and take off. After church on Sunday, we also had brought suitcases with clothes to give away for like kids and women, and shoes as well. And we also, this year we did something a little different where we brought money, and instead of paying to bring so much clothes, they said, well, why don't you guys, there's some thrift stores here with really good clothes, why don't you guys bring your money, stimulate our economy by buying it here, and not have to pay to ship yours there, and you can spend even more money for more clothes. And so we had someone they took downtown to go shopping, and they got a lot of clothes there. So after church, we didn't really have enough clothes to give out, do a clothing giveaway for the entire community. So we just invited the church and then whoever they asked. And so we filed through the kids and the women and babies and stuff, and we gave them each a bag, and then we helped them pick out some things that would fit them, and they were so excited. We brought a lot of new shoes, and those went really fast. So this is the next day. After that, we set off to make more food bags. And so that's what we're doing. We're taking these like 50 to 80 pound bags of like, I think this is corn flour. And they're saying, they would tell us, okay, we need a specific amount of bags, like 200 bags. So you take however many weight is in this bag, and you do the math and divide it up and figure out how many scoops you need for each bag to make enough for us that day. So we had to calculate that for a little while. I forgot Sunday we also went to this more touristy market downtown and did some little shopping and fun stuff, tried some that was one local meal that we had that we could eat somewhere that was fun. Let's see. So we were going to this area called Primavera, which means spring, and another neighborhood called Los Limones, which is limes, which is kind of funny. But each bag would have black beans, rice, corn flour, chicken bouillon cubes, spaghetti sauce packets, sugar, salt, and a big brick of lard. And so I guess those are common things that they would eat with. And it was we're sitting there doing this for a while, and the bags were like heavy. Like the first day, the bags that had already been put together when we got there, those were like a little bit lighter. These were like big, heavy bags. Like I could only carry like one, maybe two, when we finally got them put together. So that's just like, first we had to bag up like rice, and we'd make piles. And then after everything was bagged up, we'd go around with bags, and everyone go throughout and fill up their bags with all the different stuff. So that took a few hours. And then we went to Primavera, and we're walking up and down these neighborhoods trying to get as many houses as we could and knock on people's doors. We don't really give them out to like people at the schools or the VBSs or stuff, because we want to make sure we get as many families as we can. We don't want people taking like, one family member takes one, another family member, but it's the same family. So we want to deliver them. That's why they wanted us to deliver them at people's doors. So even like, for example, at the school, when we went there and we're like about to hand out food, and the kids see it and they're done with school and they're going home, they're like, oh, can you just give us one now? We'll just take it home. We're like, no, we'll meet you at your house. And one little boy was so concerned. He was like, but I live way up there. You guys are never going to make it to my house. Like, I live way up this hill. And we're like, no, we'll make it. Thankfully we did, because I would feel really bad that we didn't get him food. But that was kind of hard to tell people no at first, because we didn't want to create like a mob there at the truck of people just coming to us and us not knowing like how many family members are getting how many bags, So that was really neat, and everyone took a bag. Everyone was super grateful, and everyone was trying to make sure their neighbor got stuff too. And then this is just, it was so beautiful there, but it's juxtaposed with stuff like this, which, you see some of this in Alaska too, but just look at those mountains. And if you can see, there's like, I see a village here, there's a village over here, and that's like a whole nother community just way out there. And so while we're doing this in the same community, the other group that's building the house would always be in the same community as us, like kind of nearby, so that Mark could run between us and kind of check on both groups. And that's the eucalyptus tree, which just didn't even look real. I was like, wow. And then this is just so pretty. Look at these pines and stuff. And then you go down into town in the valley and see like a mango tree. It was just really funny. So the next day, Mark took us to, his friend missionary named David, who was a missionary there, and had adopted like several kids, had kind of like a children's home himself, for boys. Anyway, he helped us, and we went and bought food to make sandwiches to give away at the dump. So that's one ministry they do, is they go to this dump where people go and scavenge for things at the dump. And it was really sad. So we brought like sandwiches, bags of water. They had like bagged water, which was funny. Then like fruit, like I think it was oranges or bananas, and then cookies, and I can't remember if there was something else. And we would give them out to people from the back of the truck. So we have the bus. I'm in the bus right now because only so many people could be out there, and then people are coming to us. And we're trying to take pictures kind of sneakily because we still want people to feel like have their dignity, but at the same time we want to like remember and show people what it was like. And so it was when we first drove up, I mean, the first thing before several hundred feet before you get there, it's the smell that hits you. We even had like peppermint oil to like rub under your nose. People brought their deodorants to smell, to like not smell it so bad because it was so overwhelmingly strong. And there was a neighborhood right next to the dump as well. And it was gross too because the mud from the dump trucks constantly coming in and out, the mud was just so deep. And I'm going to tell you, every pair of shoes that I used on that trip, I donated and left there. But they were like, sometimes your shoes would just get so gross from the mud. There's dogs, stray dogs, like everywhere who are like pooping on the sidewalks and the roads, and then it runs down with the water and it's gross. Like, so I had like different shoes I would use for when we came home. We would all shower and get clean from that day and the sweat and everything. And then I would have another pair of shoes I would put on. But then we drive in and the smell hits you, and then you see all the animals scavenging as well. I mean, there was cows, which I didn't expect that, dogs, which was really sad, crows, and then hundreds of these black buzzards just like everywhere. And it was like these people and these animals were all scavenging, and it was almost like they were on the same level, and it was really sad. But people there were super grateful for the food, for the company. Mark, he knew some of these people because he's been going there for like decades, so he would go and have conversations and like check on individual people, but they were also trying to keep us safe too. And you see the people that are there, they're trying to wear clothes to like cover up so that not as much like muck gets on them for when they go home to wherever they live at night. But there was a guy there with his horse, and the horse had a baby, and it was just, some of them actually live like really close to the dump, but others like just go there for the day. And so you see some people, here's a dog, but you can see every little dot, that's a buzzard flying around. And I don't know if you can see this, but there's like at least 100 just in that frame probably. And that doesn't count like the hundreds that were just everywhere. And it was crazy because there was such a good view up from there. So you're in this like dump, and then you have this beautiful view of the rest of the city. Then this is on the way to the dump, or going out of the dump. People just put these things on the side of the road, so that's not even in the dump. And then I want to say something about one of the devos we had. We would just get together and just sing our hearts out, and it was so encouraging, and that really bonded our group. We like felt like our own little family. It was really great just having a devo morning and night, and singing. And one of the songs in the devo really stood out to me because it talked about how Jesus became poor for us, and seeing so much poverty kind of brought that, made that song have a different meaning to me, and made me really think about it on another level. And so this verse, I think part of it comes from this verse in 2 Corinthians 8:9. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you by his poverty might become rich. So this is, let's see, get ahead of myself a little bit. This is in Molaloa again. So that day we got there again. This is kind of the road we had to walk down, and this is all kind of mucky and muddy. Like this had this like almost like, you know how we have silt? It was like this red clay silt, and it made the mud so fine, and it could be very slippery, so you had to be careful when you're walking down. And so we walked down, and this is the neighborhood, and then right here is the church right there. So we helped, this is when I really connected with Evelyn that day, and I helped her serve the food. We would tell her like, oh, okay, there's 2 bigger plates, we need 2 smaller plates, and we go and serve the kids. And that's when I really got to have some good conversations with her. And she said, well, we talked about so many things, but one of the things that inspired me about it was she said, yeah, I think differently about Americans now that I see them come and serve us. And she actually grew up in that community, so she knows what it's like, and she's been doing that ministry for 20 years with a team of ladies there. So it was really neat to see them doing that work and helping be a part of it. And so we did another VBS that day, but here's a little beauty from the community, you know, making some beauty out of the trash, because there was a lot of beautiful things as well. Playing with the kids, doing bubbles with the kids, just connecting with them, and the parents, of course, too. That was really fun. It was really hard to, like, I wanted to connect so much more and keep talking and build relationships with these people, but you only get so much time, and that part was hard for me. Having been in AIM, that was hard. So let's see, I'll go back a little bit. So that night, after we got home from doing another VBS and the other group got back from building the house, we went to this center for this lady named Amber, who is a missionary they also work with, and she runs a house for young adults where she kind of takes them in. Either they've been in foster care, they don't have anywhere to go or any resources, and she takes in these young adults, and she does have a criteria they have to meet to live there, but she's been doing ministry there for 20 years as well. And she has a special ministry where she goes downtown at night to this certain area of the city, and she feeds the homeless like 4 nights a week, I think. And so they had made this, she gave us like a rundown and introduced us to the place and what she's all about. And then she made this huge pot of spaghetti. So we got in the bus and we took the truck, and then some of us came out and we would take turns serving this spaghetti with this like hot sauce and then water. And so we met a lot of the people there. There was mostly men, but there was also women. And we saw a couple kids too and pretty much a lot of those people were homeless. And then a lot of the teen boys that we saw, she told us, were glue sniffers. So they're addicted to sniffing glue. It helps them like numb themselves to not feel kind of get out of their pain and misery, but that also creates the addiction. So that was really sad, but we got to play with we got to talk with some of them, and then they played soccer with a few of them. But this is like downtown at night, it's like dark, and so we did that and then went back home. So that was very impactful. And the next day is our spa day. So this is the ministry that Lori started. It says, "My hope, elevate women, change the world," kind of help bring women out of this cycle of poverty, give them some skills so that they can make a living for themselves, especially because a lot of the women, they'll get pregnant and the men will just leave and kind of abandon them. And so they don't have anything or any way to get help. And so she started this ministry for them. And then they also were able to start a free daycare in it for the women, which is a huge deal. A year or two ago, I think. So this is there. It's a huge facility. So pretty much we're there for the students to experiment on us if we would like. And then we also get like nails. I got like gel toenails, and they lasted a long time too, and they were really nice. So you do have to pay some, but it's not as expensive as if you went to like a salon here or something. So that was neat. The students got practice. We got kind of a little bit of a rest today and something fun. I mean, people were getting their hair dyed. Alex, one of the guys, he got his hair, all his gray hair is gone. It was kind of funny. We were getting pedicures or manicures, whatever we wanted to get that there was time for. So this was written in 2017, so it's even older than this. This is kind of telling you it's 4 complete training programs. They offer microloans for women to start businesses. They also offer women employment there. So any money we put into that place is also creating jobs for these women. They have a product line store that afterward you can buy stuff out of, which was really nice. Lots of short-term mission trips go to, and then they offer classes in sewing, cosmetology. There was a whole sewing room where you could see them sewing stuff. Computers, personal skills, jewelry, piñata making, junco weaving, tassel making, embroidery, and fabric dyeing. Then they have this satellite sewing program to teach women in remote villages. It's just really amazing what they're doing there for the women, and it's neat because when you go in their little store, it'll have a card in whatever you're buying, jewelry or whatever, that'll say the lady after she makes it, she'll write her name on there. You can see like who made your item or whatever. And then that night we went to this Jesus statue, and you know how there's that big statue in Brazil as well? Well, apparently in Catholicism there's like 15 stages of Jesus's resurrection or his whole process or whatever. And so this one is the Ascension Jesus. The one in Rio, I think, is like the Rising Jesus, or I can't remember which one the one in Rio is, but this one is the Ascending Jesus or whatever. So we went and visited that. It was like this huge park, and we prayed there. We had our devotional there. We sang there, and then from there you could just see out up above the entire city, and it just gives me chills to just like see the lights and see the millions of people living there. And this black part right here is where the flood was the worst, and they decided to not rebuild that. But it was neat to see the missionary pointing out different areas of the city to us. This was just a beautiful like arch that was up there that I really thought was gorgeous. So this day was one of our last days there. This was the poorest neighborhood we went to. And so they were building a house like right around the corner from us, like a block away. And this was the weirdest location for the VBS, because it wasn't like we were at the, we had more of a structured thing where at the church we had our own building and everything, or at the orphanage we had like that gazebo thing. Here, they were just like, we're in the middle of a neighborhood. This is like the main road in this neighborhood. The roads were very thin. People could only get their like motorbikes up it, not cars. And they just were like, oh yeah, last year we had this in the lady's backyard. So this is her backyard. Her house is like up here, you can't see it. And they have this old slab of concrete. And we just asked the lady, hey, can we use this for our VBS? And she's like, yeah, because they did it last year, I guess. And it was just like, wow, okay, we're doing this. And so these kids start helping clean off the slab. They start sweeping things. I'm like, oh, how many kids do you have? And she's like, only like 2 or 3. And there's like so many kids out there helping. And you realize like, oh, they're not all her kids. They're just like neighborhood kids that are so excited. This is the lady, I forgot her name already, that owned the house. She was so sweet. And so while we were out there prepping and getting things ready, she was doing her laundry outside, washing it, and had one of those like, they would have a lot of scrub boards but made out of concrete, and they would scrub their clothes with them, and then she would wring them out and hang them on her fence. And it just gives me chills. This is like after we had done the puppet show, so this is what we set up. The kids would sit here and our puppet show was here. And then we did the craft, and then we gave away, we did snacks, of course. You can see the watermelons they had cut up here. And then we gave away the rest of our school supplies that day to that neighborhood. And that one was hard. That neighborhood was hard to be in. There was a lot of things we saw. I met this lady. She just let me hold her baby. And she had said, yeah, I had a twin, but it died. and the baby, it was hard to tell the ages of the kids there because the people in typical, like the typical average height there is much like shorter than us. And so I'd be like, oh, how old's your kid? Expecting it to be like 3, and it was like 5 or 6 or something. And so the baby was just like so tiny, and she like just let me hold this child. At one point, she was like, oh, I gotta go get my baby from the house, and her little niece, she was watching, can you just watch my niece for me? She's like 2 or 3, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, but it's just like so trusting, you know, but in that poor neighborhood and you don't have much help, you know, that's just how it is, I guess. So that's us doing the puppet show. This is Alex, their Spanish speaker, and he's actually manning a puppet as well. And I'm back behind there, and there's other people back there helping us do the script. I think we did like Jonah and the Whale, Daniel and the Lion's Den. That was Daniel and Lion's Den, I think. And then this is him just connecting with the neighborhood kids. And there's other people that would just like stop by and watch, just curious, like, what are you guys doing here, you know? This lady, so this building here, down below, this lady was hanging around and she's like, do you guys need like to put your stuff anywhere, or like you need a space? That apparently was a church. So someone accidentally dropped their like glasses down the door, and they went and got her, and she's like, oh, this is actually a church. You guys can come in here and use this space. And we're like, what? And she was just so generous, and we didn't even know her, but she was so sweet. And then there's a mango tree, and here's the crazy power lines. Oh man, it was nuts. Here's some food. They ate plantains a lot there. They didn't really eat spicy food like Mexico, but it was very good food. A little side market. I'm just really grateful that I got to go on this trip. The growth that I got to have through myself, and then also that I got to see in others, especially the kids and teens that, you know, that might be their first time seeing like a third world country or seeing people live differently than them. But experiencing another culture is so important because it helps you relate to people in a different way, especially when you're going to share Jesus with them. And so I feel really blessed that I got to go on that trip, that I got to help and put my skills to use. I was a little nervous to use my Spanish, but thankfully the second day we were there, it just kind of kicked in, and that was really good. But just the growth and change I got to see in myself and others, really grateful for that. Really grateful to meet the missionaries in there and seeing the important work they're doing with people and showing people Jesus. And it's a really great trip to bring older kids and teens on to help them experience in a safe way another culture and how to reach out and help communities, people there that are different than you and me. So I think I went pretty long. I was trying to get it all in. But are there any questions? Yes.
How long were you there?
I think my whole trip was like 12 days. It was the longest mission trip I've been on. And so after like being there a week, you were really feeling it. Some of us were starting to get sick. Some of us were just tired because you're like, go, go, go. But I started really missing my family at that point. But it was such a good trip, and I'm glad it was a little bit longer. I felt like we got to do so much more. But at least 2 of those days were just travel. And on our way back, we also spent the night in Houston to make the travel not so bad. And we got some Chick-fil-A, and yeah. That was really fun. Spent the night in a hotel, and it was really fun just all being there together at the hotel and at the pool. And yeah, that was fun. Houston was so hot. Don't recommend right now.
Kind of amenities, any amenities in those houses, or just squares? Any furniture?
Oh, the houses that we built?
Yeah.
So they would have some of their own like stuff and furniture from their old house that they could take over. But yeah, we weren't able to do like plumbing or electric or something like that. Unfortunately, we're just doing like the bare minimum to make sure they're off the ground, out of the dirt and the mud, and able to be in a safe, dry, like clean
So
place.
they mostly just cook outside and.
Yeah, a lot of them had like kitchens outside or something. But I mean, that's not all the families that are living there. And then some people did have plumbing. I remember one time when after we were at the school, there was like 4 ladies that we all had to go to the bathroom really bad. And so there was these slew of houses right by the school, and we just went and talked to one of the ladies that was really nice, and I was like, hey, do you guys have a bathroom we could use? and they were like, oh, you need to go to this neighbor. And the next one, like, you need to go to this neighbor. So we finally found this lady that was willing to let us go in her house, and it was really interesting because we went in through her kitchen, and then the toilet was like outside in between these 2 buildings. There was like a curtain of privacy and stuff, but there was no like flusher. What you do to flush the toilets there is they have like a barrel sitting outside to catch rainwater, and you take a bucket, and when you're done going to the bathroom, you pour it down and it flushes the toilet itself. But we were really grateful to get a bathroom at all, like an actual toilet. And so I like gave her a little bit of money when we left, thanking her for letting us like chomp through her house and use her bathroom. But we're very grateful. So, yeah, it was such a good trip. And anybody else have any questions?
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Yeah, first.
That was really good.
Thank you for letting me share. Yeah.